What is up, guys? So this is going to be my review for Supergirl Season 3, Episode 8, titled Crisis on Earth X, Part 1. By the way, I just hit 5,000 subscribers, and that's insane. Thank you so much to all of you who watch my videos and subscribed. I'm really grateful. And what better time to hit 5K than the big Arrowverse crossover event? The crossover starts off with Supergirl's best episode ever, plain and simple. First of all, the episode didn't feel like an episode of Supergirl per se. It felt like more like an episode of just the crossover regardless of what show it's on. That's something this season seems to be doing better than last season. Last season, all 3 episodes felt painfully focused around the show they aired on, especially Arrow. I mean, on Arrow, the whole main part of the story focused on what Oliver Queen's life would be if he never went on that boat, or more accurately, if Malcolm Merlin's wife never got killed. So it focused on that, and then in the actual world, it focused on Star City and Team Arrow. That episode especially was really more Arrow than it was the crossover, which it was a great episode, so it's not entirely a bad thing, but I'd prefer it if all 4 episodes focused or equally focused on all 4 shows' drama and problems and storylines, and that's what this crossover is doing really well. And this episode feels more like a Flash episode than it does a Supergirl episode, but it also mainly focuses on the Flash, but also there are Supergirl storylines and problems and drama, and then Arrow storylines, problems, and drama, and also Legends. Mainly, it was from Legends with the Firestorm thing, and from Arrow with the Felicity Oliver drama, and from Supergirl, it was her dealing with Mon-El and everything like that. So mainly, it equally focused on everyone except for the Flash, where it focused on that more, and that's pretty crazy considering this is an episode of Supergirl. Right from the start, we go to Earth X. Right away, it starts on Earth X. The sky is red for some reason. I don't know yet. We're introduced to Nazi Arrow, which is what I'm going to call him because I don't think they've officially announced that his name is Dark Arrow or mentioned that his name is Dark Arrow, so I'm just going to call him Nazi Arrow from now on. And then we're also introduced to Guardian of Earth X, which I totally didn't expect. They never told us we're getting a Guardian of Earth X. Granted, he did die right away after a pretty quick but great fight nonetheless with Nazi Arrow, but still it's pretty cool. They kept some secrets about the crossover, and there's a Guardian on Earth X apparently, although they probably had Guardian there just to use the entirety of the Supergirl cast, which makes sense. This is an episode of Supergirl, and more cast members on Supergirl appear than any other show, but either way, most of them just appear for a minor cameo, like Mon-El, Martian Manhunter, and now James and Guardian or James, whatever. They just all appear for minor cameos, so this doesn't feel like an episode of Supergirl. But it makes sense that they made Guardian appear for a cameo, and it also just fleshes out Earth X even more, showing us more of their superheroes. And then when we're introduced to the Freedom Fighters in probably Part 3. They're going to be mourning the death of Guardian if he was a part of the Freedom Fighters, which he probably was. So they're going to be mourning the death of Guardian, which, it's cool. It fleshes out the world, like I just said. The opening title card of the crossover is so awesome. It honestly makes the crossover feel like more of an epic event. You got Supergirl, Flash, and then Green Arrow in a slideshow, and then it goes up, and you see the Crisis on Earth X title card. That was awesome. I don't know why Legends of Tomorrow was in there, but either way, it's just an awesome title card. Then there's basically a montage of each show talking about Iris and Barry's wedding and whether or not they RSVP'd for the wedding. And that montage was a very entertaining way to start out the crossover with introducing each show. First Flash, and I think next was Arrow, then Legends and Supergirl. Introducing each show with an awesome montage where they're each fighting their own guys. The Flash is fighting King Shark. Green Arrow was fighting some ninjas. The Legends were fighting knights from a couple hundred years ago, or 1,000 years ago, I don't know, and Supergirl was fighting a Dominator, and that was all awesome. The best part in the montage was probably when Supergirl was fighting that Dominator, and she said, you are so last year. That was a great line, because, the crossover last year, Dominators, you know what I'm saying? But that was just a great, entertaining way to introduce all 4 shows into this crossover. Last year, I didn't really like how they did that. They just said, hey, we're fighting aliens, we better go call some Green Arrows and some Supergirls. It felt a little more forced than this one. I think the wedding was very necessary to bring them together into one place, and this montage shows me that. But everything between that montage and the wedding was it was fine. The scene where Oliver and Barry were trying on tuxes was mostly a really, really nice, touching, character-driven scene, except for the part where Oliver and Barry talk about Oliver and Felicity getting married. But other than that, it was a pretty nice scene. And then the pre-wedding ceremony was just a roller coaster of drama. Like Joe's speech, which is a great speech, Alex and Sarah hooking up, and Felicity saying she doesn't want to marry Oliver. First of all, that speech, like I just said, was a really good, heartfelt speech. Most of the time, those types of speeches where somebody talks about how love is important and something like that, most of the time, those speeches are super cringy. But this one, for some reason, it just wasn't. Maybe it's because the way Joe said it, which, if it is, then credit to Jesse L. Martin for actually pulling off that type of scene, making it feel heartfelt and real. Because most of the time, like I said, it's so cringy. And then Alex and Sarah hooking up is something I totally expected to happen. Everybody expected it to happen, but not so early in the crossover. Like, I thought they would connect over the next 3 episodes, and then at the end of episode 4, once everyone defeated all the bad guys, they would have a kiss and then say goodbye or something like that. But whatever, it was still really enjoyable and funny. Like, that whole interaction, the two of them interacting and then hooking up in the background, it was funny. And then when they woke up, those interactions, just in the interactions between Sarah and Alex were pretty funny. I think they have some good chemistry. Like, if they were to pair those two up, if Alex were to move to the Legends group or whatever, to Legends of Tomorrow, I think I wouldn't be against that. Speaking of funny, I know that was a terrible transition because I said the word funny in the thing where I talked about Alex and Sarah just a second ago. So you know what? I'm just gonna transition into this. Speaking of funny, this episode was pretty funny. Most of the laughs came from Heatwave interacting with people from the past on The Flash, like Captain Singh, or especially Killer Frost. I think the interactions between Killer Frost and Heatwave were golden. Like, Heatwave saying, didn't I kidnap you once? And Caitlin says, don't try it again. That was great. And then when they're having that big church fight at the end, or near the end, and Caitlin becomes Killer Frost and shoots some ice, and Heatwave's like, hell yeah, because, he loves working with a partner with ice. I don't know, those interactions were just golden. But anyway, back to the pre-wedding stuff, or the pre-wedding drama, and Oliver and Felicity talk about getting married. That whole scene was really cringy, especially when Felicity shouted, I don't want to marry you. That was like really cliche and especially hard to watch. I know it was just a couple seconds, but it happens so often in movies and TV shows. It's just cliche and cringy and hard to watch. I did not like the scene. Although, if this pans out the same way that the Maggie and Alex thing pan out, like Alex wanted kids, Maggie didn't want kids, so they broke up because of it. Oliver wants to get married, Felicity does not want to get married, so they break up because of it. I think that'll be awesome. No particular reason. I mean, Black Canary is in the next episode, but I just want them to break up. And then we get to the wedding. The wedding was so much more entertaining than I expected it to be. I don't know why, I just found it pretty entertaining. Obviously, I couldn't wait until it ended because I just wanted the Nazis to show up already, which is something I never thought I'd say in my life. But the wedding actually didn't take up that much of the crossover, just like 10 total minutes so far. I bet there's going to be another wedding in episode 4 at the end, but so far just 10 minutes. I don't know if that's an exact number or anything. That's just off the top of my head. 10 minutes, which is great. It's a great time period. I mean, it's a big event to bring all the superheroes together, and then it's just 10 minutes and they fight some Nazis. But the wedding, the people who were invited to the wedding, was just all over the place and weird. They invited Heatwave, but didn't invite Diggle or Ray. That just doesn't add up. And Barry didn't meet Sarah until the last year's crossover. So why invite Sarah but not Ray and Diggle, where Barry's met Diggle like 5 times now and Ray a couple times? It just doesn't make sense. And then Ralph Dibny wasn't invited. He's been hanging out with Barry. He went to his bachelor's party, but didn't go to his wedding. And, I mean, hell, they didn't invite Jesse Quick or Jay Garrick or Gypsy, but they invited Heatwave? What the hell? Okay, so right now, this part over here is not a review. It's not a part of the review. It's just speculation for the future of The Flash. So, right before the wedding is crashed, a girl walks up to Barry and awkwardly talks to him about the wedding. It's been confirmed that she has some sort of connection with Iris and Barry, which is obviously, that means she's a descendant from their future, or maybe she's a descendant from their future from a different Earth, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but I mean, The question is, who is she? And I swear, if she's a gender-bent Bart Allen, I'll be pretty mad, not gonna lie. I really hope that doesn't happen. I mean, again, she's probably a descendant of Iris and Barry, and then she's probably a speedster, and she comes back from the future. That's exactly Bart Allen's story, so it'll make, when Bart Allen eventually shows up in the future, so much less special if she's not a gender-bent Bart Allen, which, again, would get me pretty upset. But if it's not that, then I honestly have no clue. Maybe we'll just have to wait to find out. Maybe during the crossover we'll find out. But most likely in the upcoming episodes of The Flash. Maybe not even until near the end of the season. But most definitely in the next couple episodes, like episode 10, 11, 12, or 13, around there. So, the Nazis finally show up, and to my surprise, Nazi Arrow and Prometheus X are there too. I expected it to just be Overgirl and some Nazi soldiers who showed up because she's the only Earth X doppelganger we saw in the trailers at the wedding. But either way, the fight scene was incredible. It was so awesome. I mean, you got Overgirl fighting Supergirl. Wally West was catching like 6 bullets at a time, throwing one of them into a gun. That was such an awesome scene. Barry Allen's running around. You got Oliver jumping through a breach and shooting an arrow at Nazi Arrow, and then they fight for a couple minutes. This scene was just a bunch of awesomeness. It was one of the best big superhero fight scenes I've ever seen. I think it might even be, okay, I don't know if it's one of the best, but I mean, it made me think a lot of like Civil War. That whole airport fight scene, it made me think of that because you got all these superheroes working together against other equally powered, I mean, this time it's not superheroes, but like they're equally powered and then they're working together. It was an awesome scene. The only thing I didn't like about this scene was Prometheus. For this video alone, I'm only going to talk about what happened in this episode. I saw the next episode already, but I'm not going to make a review about that until after this review, maybe even tomorrow, because I know this is going to be a really long video, so it might take me a while to make. But I'm just going to talk about everything that happened in this episode. And in this episode, Prometheus went out like a punk. He just fought White Canary and Alex for like a minute or two. And I don't doubt those two can take out Prometheus, because of course they can. They're 2-on-1. But he barely put up a fight. He lasted a couple seconds fighting with them. So Prometheus X was really disappointing. And then he got captured. But everything else in the scene was incredible. So, near the end of the episode, Barry tells Wally to take Joe and Cecile away from Central City and protect them in case one of the villains show up and try to kill him, because now you have Wally protect them, which first of all didn't make sense because right now they're surrounded by like 30, maybe like I think like closer to 20 superheroes protecting them, so having just Wally protect them doesn't really make sense, and this just felt like a cheap excuse to get Wally out of the crossover because they couldn't afford the actor, or they couldn't afford that many actors, which obviously makes sense. They don't have an unlimited budget, and there are a crap ton of actors in this thing, but it just felt so cheap. And again, why would they do this? You got so many superheroes here. You want to go out of town and just get protected by one superhero, which, again, also, why didn't they take Iris with them? Like, just like Joe and Cecile, Iris is useless when fighting, when going up against these Nazis. So why don't you take Iris with them? If you're gonna go with the logic that it's safer out there with just Wally, then take Iris with you. But honestly, that's just a nitpick. It's not a small nitpick, but it's a big nitpick. Like, it's almost a problem, but it's just a nitpick. So, in conclusion, this episode was awesome. Like I said at the beginning of the review, this is the best episode of Supergirl ever. No doubt. I don't have a doubt in my mind about that. Everything negative I said about this episode was pretty nitpicky. Most of what I said was about the budget, that they couldn't afford the actors, so the way they found to get around that wasn't very clever, but either way, they couldn't afford the actors, so it's not really, it's just a nitpick. But the things I didn't enjoy about this episode was Prometheus X's portrayal. He went out like a punk, and I already know who Prometheus X is. I watched the next episode, and you know what, I was right. He wasn't my number one choice, but he was my second choice for who it will be. But I think the way he was portrayed in the next episode was even worse than this episode, because he just went out. He died. But I'll talk about that in my next episode review. So this episode, I give in crossover standards, I'll say a 9.7 out of 10. But in normal episode standards, it just straight up got a 10 out of 10. It was almost perfect. 10 out of 10 doesn't mean perfect, because I give a lot of things 10 out of 10 and like something that's 10 out of 10 more than another thing that's 10 out of 10, which, I mean, that means that one thing is 9.999482, And the one thing is 9.999483, so it could be just a little bit better. So this wasn't 100% perfect, but it was the best episode of Supergirl ever. I gotta give it a 10 out of 10. So what do you think about the episode? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.